Before we go any further this Saturday, can we just deal with cheating in debate? Trump, while the Trumpy Trumps have been saying that whenever Trump does a debate, his opposition is, well, given an advantage. I wonder how you would explain this then. Republican Derek Anderson in VA, see what happens.
Holden to swear an oath of fealty to the president. And it could be a Republican, it could be a Democrat, and frankly, it's unacceptable. It weakens us in national security because what it does is you're replacing experts with political hacks. I have some knowledge of that because I worked in the previous administration in the National Security Council. I've seen what that does to national security. And these are experts that have...
Should we just rerun that in slow motion? Looks like he was slipped a note during a debate from his handler. Cheating. Michael Cohen, I'm sure you know the history of Michael Cohen and the former guy. He did have some interesting words to say this Saturday on the weekend show on MSNBC. That's with regard the cronies, the loonies that are in Trump's inner circle. You may think these are the sort of people that hang out on Fox News. Well, they probably are, but they've lost the plot. Mark Robinson, Lara Loomer, where hate, racism, and anti-Semitism, they're just being accepted. Nobody is calling it out. Why?
You have this idea that he embodies this attack on the country in such a profound way, and yet people seem to be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that we've also seen, not only Donald Trump telling you he wants to rewrite the Constitution as if he could, with
all caps,
right, all
Sharpie.
Caps. No, not Sharpie, crayon. All right, on stolen documents that he took from the White House, right? Maybe some top secret on the back of it, he'll scratch it out. But he also has talked about destroying our tripartite system of government, getting rid of the legislative branch and the judiciary, conferring all power onto himself, making him the king. And what else has he done? He has said he wants everyone that's going to work in the administration, in his government, to sign a loyalty pledge. That's something that you don't see from a president. That's something that you see from a king, a monarch, a supreme leader, or a Führer, not from a president of the United States. Everything here is wrong. It's all wrong for America, it's wrong for the future of America, and it's wrong for democracy.
You know, Mike, I think that's a really important point, and it turns our attention to Donald Trump. But I'm really interested in the fact that he's appealing to such a large swath of Americans. Yep. And that fact requires us to think about our history. And our history leads us to, will immediately lead us to the fact that there's always been this undemocratic undertow to American life. Folks who are not committed to the democratic process, folk who are not committed to the idea of checks and balances, folk who think that this is an ethno-nationalist state, folk who believe that only certain folks should have rights and other folks. So there's always been this battle. Why else is Lincoln saying we must appeal to our better angels? Because there's the fact that there's an ugly underbelly to the country. And what's interesting about Donald Trump is he's turned the well over. And we can see the barnacles and all of the ugliness underneath. And so part of our challenge is not just simply to exceptionalize Donald Trump. Our challenge is to understand his attraction. And once we wrap our minds around that, then maybe we can open up space for the
And look at the attraction that Ellie's talking about. Think about it. He's gotten MAGA Mike Johnson to get on the record to talk about how he wants to see America as a white Christian nationalist country again. That's their goal. On top of that, he even has Mark Robinson, a black man from North Carolina, buying into the nonsense.
Don't get ahead of us.
Very much interested in how the vice president would begin to have this conversation around the economy, since it has been such a weak point for Democrats, despite all of the good news that has come out over the past year. And now with interest rates cuts by the Fed this week, 50 basis points and Republicans whining about that, saying like that's a bad thing. I want you to listen to how, in this very, very loose moment with Oprah Winfrey, the vice president talks about her economic agenda relative to Donald Trump's.
Part of my plan is to give startup small businesses a $50,000 tax deduction to start up their small business. Right now it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So that's part of my plan.
That's a teeny tiny business.
That's a business in
teeny tiny business.
It's a concept of a business, right?
Yes.
They ain't ready for this. This is a concept of a business. I mean, I love, and the thing about it is people got it. I think people get it. They understand what that means for a small business owner to now be able to have this infusion of support.
Absolutely. You know, tens of millions of Americans have small businesses, and many more people think about becoming their own boss and launching a small business or a side hustle that's a small business. But when you launch a small business, then you get hit by a tax bill because there's not withholding. And that can be hugely problematic for people. So having the vice president in the corner of everyone who has a dream, who wants to build wealth for themselves and their families by launching something that is their idea, not just getting a job, that really speaks to a president who connects not just with people, as she says, trying to get by, but people trying to get ahead, people who have aspirations. And it speaks to this big idea about the future, turning the page, thinking about where we want to go, not just going back to someplace where we've been. I think it ties in so deeply to the core idea of this campaign. It's why she has credibility on the economy in a way that has to be making Donald Trump panic a little bit.
I did say some time ago, I actually think it would be a great idea for Kamala Harris to go on Fox News in the same way that Pete Buttigieg goes on Fox News and deal with the liars, the bullshitters, the conspiracy theories, take them all down at once, because how they spin and play it, they just need somebody to point out that they're, well, a bit pathetic. Hypocrisy, contradictions. Take, for example, I think whenever I've heard anything to do with guns, the First Amendment, Fox News being firmly in that corner, until Kamala Harris says how she would deal with any intruders, and suddenly, well, look at this reaction. It's come back, SNL.
Answer this. She's married, right?
She is married.
All right, so Doug is in the bed with her, right?
Correct.
So someone breaks into the Harris house, and Harris shoots the intruder?
She just said they would get shot.
Okay, because she made it seem like she was going to cap the guy. Because if someone breaks into the house and the man stays in bed and hides under the covers and the wife goes out and takes care of it, let Doug explain it.
What a chauvinist thing to say.
Maybe she's the gun owner and he isn't, and he's following the law.
Yeah.
Following the law?
Yes, by not using someone else's gun.
You can't use your wife's gun?
No.
And he doesn't have his own gun? I think we have a lot of questions about this.
Let the record reflect this is the one time Judge Bureau has defended Kamala Harris. I
was defending her.
The one thing I would say to you, if you come across anybody knocking on your door, regardless of what political party they are, but specifically if they are a Republican, get them on policy. Because they're heavy on rhetoric, heavy on red meat, but very light on policy. For example, what's going on in Springfield, Ohio? Yeah? There's very little discussion in terms of the history of Springfield, the details of why there has been immigration, the positivity of what's going on in Springfield. It's all based on one J.D. Vance lie, one smear, which is blown out of proportion. You can always find somebody who's wearing red shoes, by the way. So when you see on Fox an opinion from somebody randomly in the street, who's often actually a member of the Republican Party, always take that with a pinch of salt. So if somebody comes knocking, open the door and say, hello, nice to see you. I'll probably see you again in 4 years' time when the next election is on. But anyway, what are your policies on, I don't know, childcare? What is your thoughts on the fact that we still don't have Trump's healthcare plan? Ask them straight. You'll probably get a good answer, which will give you some material to have a laugh at them, but hey.
Taylor Swift isn't the first successful woman Donald Trump has attacked. She's just the most recent.
I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired.
Trump has a problem with women. Disrespectful.
Must be a pretty picture you dropped in.
Insulting.
Ivana does exactly as I tell her to do.
Even violence.
Ivana Trump once used the term rape to describe a sexual encounter with Trump.
It's ugly.
I'm not thinking.
That's okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
It's cruel.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah.
And one thing he's proven is that he'll never change.
I could do this all day long.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
Would you want your son to treat women like Trump does?
And when you're a star, you can do anything. Grab him by the...
Is this how you would want a man to treat your daughter?
Blood coming out of her, wherever.
You know the answer. You know the truth. He says he hates Taylor.
I was not a Taylor Swift fan.
But the truth is, he hates all of us.
This is kind of interesting. Before we go any further, Nate Silver is one of the Republicans' favourite pollsters. Nate Silver's polls are the ones that Trump, everybody on Fox, will go to first when they're trying to find something favourable to talk about in the current election polling. Who's going to win? So we'll do the same. We'll look at Nate Poll's latest poll. You can see for yourself how Kamala Harris is doing. She's the blue line. And how the former guy is doing, he's the red line. The latest poll as well from CNN isn't particularly good. And this reflects the latest, what word are we using to describe the guy who's the pin-up for MAGA, Mark Robinson.
All right, the stunning K-File report about the message board postings from this man, North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, the Republican nominee for governor, on a porn messaging board has really rocked the political world this morning. The key question, what impact will this have on the presidential race? North Carolina, a very important state. Well, there's one man who can answer that question. Senior data reporter Harry Enton. Let's talk about the potential impact of this.
Yeah, all right. So let's just take a look at where we are in the polls in North Carolina. Look, it's as close as you can be in the presidential race. It is a tie right at this particular hour. In the governor's race, even before this scandal rocked everything, the Democrat Stein was ahead by 10 points. So the bottom line was, look, Mark Robinson was very likely to lose this race even before the scandal. Now he's more likely to lose this race. So let's talk about the tie in North Carolina and the importance of that state in this election. All right, so this is the chance of winning the election if you win North Carolina. The bottom line is this. If Kamala Harris wins in the great state of North Carolina, she's got a 95% chance of winning the election. There are many maps in which she can win the election without North Carolina. That's less so for Donald Trump because he has only a 77% chance of winning the election if he wins in North Carolina. So the bottom line is, must-win state much more for Donald Trump than it is for Kamala Harris.
And this is according to Nate Silver on his Silver Bullet messaging board. He talks about the importance of every state, what state would be a tipping point here. Obviously for Harris, if she wins that, likely to win. Trump a little less so, but still pretty important to both.
Still pretty gosh darn important to both. And, you know, when we talk about this story and how much of an impact it could potentially have, look, this is an immediate measure. Google searches for Mark Robinson through the roof since the K-File story came out. Look at this. Up over 8,000% nationally, and even in the great state of North Carolina, where they were searching for him more than they were nationally, it's up nearly 4,000%. So the bottom line is this is a scandal that could definitely have a big potential for impact in a very important state in the presidential election, John.
Interesting this is less, though, because they know the idea would be they already know what's going on down there.
They were already searching for him. Not big surprise. People in North Carolina were more interested in that gubernatorial race before this scandal than folks nationally. But now the folks nationally are certainly interested, and that's part of the reason why we're talking this morning about it.
Harry Enton, great to see you.
Great to see you
very much. Kate?